Welcome to Share Talk. Today I have Roger Murphy, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Sula Iron and Gold plc. The ticker on AIM is Sula, S-U-L-A. How are you today, sir?
Very well, thanks, Steve. And you?
I'm not too bad myself.
Very good.
Ticking along. I think I might be coming down with this dreaded cold that everyone's had, though.
Yeah. Well, let's hope we get through this interview.
It's a pleasure speaking to you today. What I would like to start with is obviously the background of yourself and the directors that came on board on the end of October, please.
Well, at the beginning of my career, I studied as a geologist and I worked for about 4 or 5 years in Africa in exploration, both coal and gold exploration. And I also worked underground in a gold mine in Africa, in South Africa, in fact, as a production geologist. So spent a bit of time, trying to find things and also mine them. I worked then in the UK as a geologist. In the early 90s, I converted my career into the city. I was a broker for around 20 years, broker and a banker, ran sales at Canaccord, and ran the Dundee Canada's office in London, and converted myself into becoming a company type about 6 months ago. Partnered up with Medini, which is a private partnership run by very strong industry technical professionals. And we bought in the summer 26% of Sula. I went on the board as CEO, and my partner at Medini, Ian McPherson, who's been a CEO of listed companies and also built mines in West Africa and elsewhere, joined the board as as a non-executive director. The incumbent board members remained on the board. Nick Worrell, who was formerly CEO, stepped down to become COO. Howard Baker, our technical director, remains in place, a very strong geologist. And Matt Wood provides the financial support. And I think we now have a very strong board, covering all the bases.
So a comprehensive team with lots of history working within the sectors.
Yeah, that's right. Nick stewarded the company for the last 4 years, and I want to pay tribute to Nick. I mean, he kept the company going through, a beastly bear market for small cap mining, and also when Sierra Leone was ravaged with Ebola, we Sula remained in country through that period, and that accrues very positively to us in terms of reputation of the company in Sierra Leone. Nick is also the only white paramount chief in the whole country, and he is that paramount chief in the area in which we're exploring, and that gives us a lot of local kind of support, which I think is a very important component of any company that is working and exploring in rural parts of the world.
So, touching on rural parts of the world, your main project is based in Sierra Leone, as you just touched upon. Could you give us some insight to what the project is and what sort of scale of commodities you've got there?
Well, Ferensola is the name of the license. It's about 150 square kilometers. Historically, we've looked at 3 commodities in the area. Iron ore in the southwest corner. We have a Jorc resource of around 40 odd million tons. That's Jorc compliant. It's also contiguous with the Tonkalili mine, which was formerly African Minerals' mine and is now operated by Shandong, the Chinese group. We also have some coltan on the license, but we haven't tracked down the source of that. And our main focus going forward will be the gold. We have a Jorc compliant exploration target signed off by SRK, one of the leading international consultants, of between 0.8 and 1.5 million ounces, and that is grading between 4 and 8 grams, which is a high grade. There's many mines in the world, even in places like Ghana, which are operating at 1.5 grams. So our potential grade could be double or even treble that. And I just want to emphasize, although we have iron ore and that we think there is a value to that iron ore, our focus going forward would be on the gold.
So, in relation to the grades of gold that you've got there, have you worked out sort of a cut-off grade?
No, at the moment we're trying to the gold exploration target we have comes from a very small part of our license area. It's known as Sanama Hill, which in the local language means Gold Hill. But using different geophysics techniques, magnetics, and most importantly, IP, which induced polarization, that picks up a mineral endowment which is closely associated with gold. And Sanama, where we have the gold resource, gold exploration target, stands out well, but we have another 8.5 kilometers of prospective targets. And our intention is to drill the largest of those, which we are calling the eastern target. Sanama is about 1.5 kilometers long, and the eastern target is 4 kilometers long. So our big focus going into next year will be, certainly in the first quarter, will be to start drilling the eastern target. And we're confident that we will find gold mineralization on the eastern target. The reason is we've recovered gold from samples which we collected in a road that crosses that target.
So the exploration target, I know obviously by your former sort of news and press releases, you're supporting that by a drilling program, which in turn contains sort of verification sampling, and you're going to be updating and reviewing sort of geology and mineralization with ground and airborne magnetic data. Can you tell us how that fits into sort of, say, the next 6 to 12 months worth of working program?
The ground and air geophysics, whether it's magnetics or ground IP, we've done quite a bit of that, and we're using those tools to lead us to the next stage, which is to try to, if you like, ground truth these geophysics targets by drilling them. So our focus, we raised money recently at 0.21 pence. We still have an open offer, open until the 16th for retail investors to participate on the same terms as the larger money that we brought in, and that money will be directed principally towards drilling the eastern target. That being said, we do have a lot of other anomalies, and we're finding that IP, as I say, induced polarization, is a good tool, and we may consider in due course extending the IP work we've done, because we are still only focusing on a smaller part of our overall target. Our overall license area, which, as I say, is 150 square kilometers. We can't do everything at the same time, and we will do this sequentially and rationally, in the way that scientific geology and exploration works. But our target is to drive this company a lot higher on the back of some what we believe would be very good gold exploration results.
So, in relation to timescales for sort of workover projects on this sort of small section of your overall exploration target, what sort of timescales have you got there?
The drillers have been, we've mandated a leading African drilling company, or I should say led by some of the most eminent African drillers, Equity Drill, and they are mobilizing rigs now from South Africa. We hope to have them on site in January, and we would then start drilling immediately. They're on site. At the moment, we're prepping. We have bulldozers on site putting in roads to create drill pads so we can drill exactly where we want to drill. Our technical director, Howard Baker, has designed the drill program, and as I say, it should start in January and would probably take six or 8 weeks. So we would hope to have our first results, optimistically late February, but perhaps into March, and then we would release those and assess where we go next in the light of what we expect to be very good results.
Now, you touched there obviously about building roads in country, and I think it will be quite a nice sort of point. In relation to Sula, I note that you've got a CSR in place, and you're basically helping them construct roads, etc., in country. Would you like to touch on that?
Yeah, and I think, again, going back to Nick Worrell, who our former CEO, now COO, has been in country in Sierra Leone for 25 years. He was created an honorary paramount chief by the local chief, and it was partly because of the work that he's done in the local community. We've built roads. We have a grader. The thing with rural roads, in the rainy season, they degrade. So we would then send a grader out to fix those roads and repair them so that they're easier to drive on. We also have created dams to help store water into the dry season for local villages. And of course, we employ a number of people. And having worked on other mines in Africa, for every person that's employed, there's a trickle-down impact of up to 10 people. So in a very rural area, we are quite I would say, a force for good.
Definitely, and on the back of that, where you bring in families, etc., you've also got schools there as well that are obviously being educating up to 500 children. So I think it's a very ethical sort of project that Nick's obviously helped with there.
Thanks, Steve. And that's certainly, I committed, and my partners at Medini committed quite a lot of money to Sula. And whilst we did that because we want to make a good return on the money, we did it in part also because we want to have a good impact on the future of this part of rural and very poor Africa. And that everything we do will have that CSR, or I'd like to refer to it as social license to operate, embedded in everything we do.
Now, in relation to looking at your sort of recent news flow, you've already touched obviously about the fundings, etc. There's a number of questions that shareholders have put forward to us. Would you like to sort of just reiterate what the open offer is that you put in place as of the end of November?
Yeah, sure. So we have already raised just short of £1.2 million by selling stock to high net worths and other, quite often friends and family of myself and some of my partners in Sula, at 0.21 of a penny. And we, in wanting to give everybody the same crack of the whip, we've extended that open offer at some cost to Sula. It has to be said, but we've extended that to all shareholders. So any shareholder can buy additional stock at 0.12 of a penny in the ratio of one new share for every 13 held. And we've capped that at £300,000. So we can issue up to an additional £300,000 in the open offer. And if that's not taken up and there is demand elsewhere, we have the right to place that stock with other high net worths or anybody who's interested. The open offer is due to close on the 16th, and then we will assess how we allocate stock in the light of the take-up of the open offer.
Is there a certain date where shareholders have to hold shares in relation to having that offer?
That date has passed. I'm afraid I haven't got it in my head, but it was about a week or so ago.
Okay.
But, it's all
yeah, I was just touching base to say if I wanted to buy a certain amount, could I buy shares now and then obviously open myself up to the open offer?
I think that, as I say, that date has passed, but to the extent that existing shareholders don't take up their entitlement, we have the right to allocate that to people who express interest to us. So if you want to, do let me know. Love to have commentators such as yourself as a shareholder for whom I'm working, as well as having put money in myself, I should point out. I've put a significant amount of money into this company myself.
I will not hold stocks or shares in companies that I cover.
Okay.
I'm quite ethical that way. So, in relation to up and coming news flow, then, or what's your hopes and expectations?
It revolves around drilling. As I say, we're shooting for first drilling in January, and we will release results. The drilling is targeted principally at the eastern target. We will do some more drilling at Sanama, but we have an idea of Sanama's gold endowment as a result of the SRK awarded Jorc exploration target. Eastern target is our principal focus. We'll also look at some of the other attractive targets on the license area. One of the things that I want to highlight is we've got a very, we think, a very attractive and certainly very creative drilling solution whereby Equity Drill will be drilling, as the name says, partly for equity. And they would take up to 50% of their total payment in stock, but they've also agreed to put a floor price on the stock price in which they would be compensated at 0.35 of a penny. So that's around 50% premium to the current share price. And they will take the stock after we've announced the results. So if we hit something fantastic, and I don't know, maybe our share price goes higher, perhaps just to choose a number and my optimism, say 0.5, then their stock compensation for the drilling would be at 0.5. So we think that's a great deal. It means, and this is something that other drilling companies do as well, but I think Equity Drill, having given us a floor at 0.35, that's we think fantastic and shows their confidence in the project. But it also means that we can drill more. We don't just have to rely on cash. We can also place stock at a much higher price than now in part payment for the drilling that we will do. So we will assess our results as they go along, and then we will, maybe modify or maybe expand the drill program based on our results as they come in.
Is there anything else you'd like to touch on for our listeners?
Yeah, I suppose there's two or three other things. One, I think I saw a question or somebody's asked about a corporate video. We would hope to have that as a Christmas present for Sula shareholders, and that's something we're working on to try to help people understand the geology in particular. That's not going to be, that would be more geologically focused, but I hope it will convey why we're just so bullish about this opportunity. Geologically, we think it looks fantastic. And then I think people have asked about our iron ore strategy. The size of our iron ore is not big enough in itself to carry the capital cost of a mine, but being contiguous with an operating mine, we have relationships with Shandong, the Chinese miner. We believe, our technical director did all the resource work for the mine, so understands what they're mining when, and we would like in the future to enter a discussion with them to see whether they would like to mine our iron ore under tribute, or perhaps do a deal with them. But that's for the future. And as iron ore prices tighten, we would welcome that, and we will seek to have that dialogue.
You touched upon it there. Shareholders have put across quite a few questions in relation to Roger Murphy and Sula Iron and Gold. And what ShareTalk are going to do in the next week or so is do a open question and answers session. So if there are any questions, feel free to get in touch with ShareTalk, and Roger has quite happily agreed to do that on behalf of its shareholders and listeners.
Yeah, I'd like to reiterate that. I'm very keen that we take everybody with us on this journey, and I'm open to conversations with shareholders to try to persuade everybody to share our commitment and enthusiasm for what we believe has the potential to be a large and high quality gold project, we look forward to kind of updating the market on that as we go forward.
Right, Roger, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks, Steve. I guess we'll be in touch again next week to pick up on the questions.
Indeed we will be. Thank you very much for your time.
And thank you. Cheers now.
Thanks.